It had been a long, difficult struggle for Teri Hatcher. She'd had to fight her way back from near obscurity in an industry that historically hasn't been kind to women in their 40s. But now, with Desperate Housewives, the hottest show on television, Teri Hatcher was again on the top of the Hollywood hill. The stylist who had been working with her before Desperate Housewives premiered could tell the difference right away.
In Hollywood, there's definitely a pecking order in terms of clothes and who gets to wear what. One famous fashion house said, you know, well, if you want to buy something in the boutique, we'll give you a discount. Very kind of like haughty.
But that changed almost overnight.
Houses were, you know, they were falling all over themselves. They were sending sketches, they were sending people, they were calling, they were making all sorts of overtures.
And the same thing happened with fashion magazines.
She was, as she put it in her Golden Globe speech, Hollywood's biggest has-been. The situation completely changed. As soon as the show started airing, I mean, not even a month into the show starting, she was already booked for covers on Harper's Bazaar, In Style.
In May of 2006, she published a part memoir, part self-help book called Burnt Toast. In a breezy girlfriend-to-girlfriend style, she describes her struggles with self-doubt, with divorce, single motherhood, turning 40, and a host of other things many women, even those without a glamorous Hollywood career, face every day.
She even named her book Burnt Toast based on the fact that her mother taught her, accept what's in front of you, so if your toast is burnt, eat it anyway or scrape it off, but that's your toast. The idea of throwing it away and making new toast never occurred to her, and that really is the basis for a lot of her philosophies in life.
She talks a lot about them in her book, Burnt Toast, and about her struggle to treat herself better and to expect more of her life, to expect good things for her life instead of expecting failure. And it's obviously an ongoing process for her.
Among the recurring themes in the book is her struggle with dating and the search for Mr. Right.
Maybe you can't have it all at the same time, you know. Maybe there just hasn't been room for a guy yet.
She does admit that she would like to have a boyfriend, and that as she gets older, she says sometimes she feels that that window closes.
I think maybe there was times where she was lonely, which is also going to make you feel like, you know, there's all these people who would love to be around me, and yet I feel a little lonely, you know. And it's easy to feel lonely, I think, when you're as successful as Teri, because it's hard to really people. It's harder. It's easy to meet people, but it's harder to know people.
When it's Hollywood and you want that sense of normalcy, it's going to be hard to find a guy like that, I think.
You know, whether that comes with the territory of being an actress, it does to some extent. Whether that's part of her upbringing, it probably is to some extent. But that's obviously been the one area that has been the least successful for her.
In the book, Teri also takes aim at the rumors that have been floating around her for years.
Teri Hatcher just shoots down a laundry list of rumors about her. That she's not anorexic, she has not had several boyfriends since her divorce, she's not asking for more money than everybody else on the show.
Burnt Toast became an immediate seller and spent several weeks at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list.
One of the reasons that Teri Hatcher is so likable to the general public is that she's so incredibly candid about her own struggles with insecurity and her self-esteem issues.
And there was one more issue in her life that Teri was about to share with the public. And this one was a real shocker. For the April 2006 issue of Vanity Fair magazine, Teri Hatcher was the cover story. Inside, she revealed something she had long kept a secret. As a child, she was sexually abused by an uncle. But there was more to the story than that.
Teri was incredibly devastated by the news that a 14-year-old girl who had been abused by the same man who abused her committed suicide.
The girl had left a suicide note naming Richard Stone as her abuser. With no other evidence, the 64-year-old could not be prosecuted.
We did a ton of research, we did a ton of investigation, we just did not have enough to go forward.
When Teri heard about it, she could no longer remain silent.
I was sitting in my office and the phone rang, and it was Teri Hatcher calling to tell me that she had some information on our case. What was interesting was we knew that she had at one point been related in marriage to the defendant, Mr. Stone, but obviously had no inkling that is what had occurred or that anything had occurred.
Teri knew there were risks in coming forward.
And I figured if I came forward, it would end up in the press, and then that's what I would be, and I would never work again.
She really had no upside to going forward, and there was all types of downside, and she expressed to me the concern that people would exploit it and say there's an actress who's looking for attention and things of that nature. But she knew that the one reason to come forward was it was the right thing to do.
A few days later, Teri gave a deposition in her manager's office to the Santa Clara assistant DA.
She told me later that she had almost canceled that morning because she was so scared about talking about it, but that she had spent time with her daughter, Emerson, that morning, and that she knew that if something, God forbid, were to happen to her daughter, she'd want someone to step up.
The prosecutors presented a copy of Teri's statement, along with a tape recording to Stone's attorney. A few days later, he pleaded guilty to 4 counts of child molestation and received a 14-year prison sentence.
But I knew that he wouldn't get put behind bars if I didn't come forward, and so that was, once I found that out, it was a no-brainer.
Our case was dead, and she saved it, and that's the reality. We got justice for the little girl as a result of Teri coming forward.
And that wasn't the only result of Teri's testimony.
Right after she did come out, when she did come out, I got multiple calls, multiple calls, in excess of 25 in the first 24 hours from other victims out there.
Through all the ups and downs, from the heady rush of a hit show to the undeniable pain of a marriage on the rocks and a career in jeopardy, Teri Hatcher has resolved to never again accept burnt toast as inevitable.
I see a lot of blue skies. I see a lot of opportunity and happiness, but it's never all one thing or the other. Hey, nice to meet you.
There's very few people who have what she has. There's very few people that I've met who can kind of juggle the things she juggles and do the different kinds of things she does. And she's done it as a single mom. She's that incredible combination of incredibly strong and also fragile. And she doesn't really realize sometimes that she's as special a lady as she is.
Teri Hatcher has acknowledged that there have been times that she's been very depressed, that there have been times she's felt very badly about her situation, and she's going to share her experiences with others with the idea that it may help them in some way.
Teri says she's come to a really good place in her life. She understands how lucky she